Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, I always feel selfish when I say I have to protect myself first and I have to prioritize myself. But it's true. You have to. You have to prioritize yourself. And you have to take care of yourself before other people. Like you got to put the mask on yourself first, right? If you want to live, you have to put the mask on yourself first. And so that's, I try really hard as long as my cup is full, I'm happy to give whatever's left away. Right?
Yeah.
But when my cup isn't full, sometimes I have to stop giving so that I can go back to filling my own cup up. And I think sometimes that's where the heartache happens, where people are like, but wait, like you are an endless source of energy for me. You are an endless source of things for me. And now you stopped. And I'm like, yeah, right. So you're going to have to get some of your own for a little while I refill my cup, because I get to take care of me for a little bit. And I think that's hard for people sometimes.
It is. And I've been paying attention to that as of late, right? Like, are you doing this because of your own energy, or are you doing this because you've interacted with me?
Well, and even more so, what are you giving to me, right?
True, too.
If your cup is full, where is that energy going?
Welcome to Connecting the Dots. I'm your host, Jessica Carice, and this space is a place where we talk about seemingly random topics. In all actuality, they're connected together. And today we have a very special guest. Her name is Sharon Weaver. We met in December at an event that she hosted called CollabCon. And Sharon Weaver is the founder and CEO of Smarter Consulting, a business and technology firm helping organizations leverage Microsoft 365, Power Platform, and AI tools to drive efficiency and innovation. A Microsoft Regional Director, MVP, and certified trainer, Sharon blends her expertise in software development, business analysis, and project management with her passion for mentorship and empowerment. She is a sought-after speaker, author, and mentor who thrives on helping people and businesses succeed. Sharon also hosts that Glam Life podcast, where she shares her insights on mindset, empowerment, and living your best life. Sharon, thank you so much for being on my show. How are you doing today?
So excited to be here. I love being on podcasts. I love when you find out that you get to talk for a living, does it really get any better? So I feel so blessed and so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So Sharon, what a bio.
I know, it sounds great.
What does that even mean? To be the regional director for Microsoft regional director. Paint a picture of what your current life looks like, because, some people, this might be the first time they even heard of something like that.
Yeah. So the Microsoft MVP program is a really big part of my life. I kind of joke, other people watch TV, play puzzles, have hobbies. I have Microsoft. Microsoft is my hobby. But the MVP program is an award program that, really finds people who are going out of their way to extend Microsoft into the community in a community way, and it awards them for doing that. And the MVP award is really where people are working directly between the people who make the product and the people who use the product, and they're, sharing that passion and bringing the information from the people who use the product back to the people who make the product, and vice versa. The regional director program is part of the MVP award program, but regional directors, instead of being awarded at the product level, are awarded at the strategy level. So if you think about the idea of the people who make the product to the people who use the product, the people who are directing that strategy to the people who are defining the strategy. So we think about executives and directors and the people who are implementing those strategies and roadmaps within their organizations, connecting them to the people who are making those same decisions at Microsoft. So in the RD program, what we do is we provide feedback to the executive organization at a strategy level around what's happening in the real world and how they can make sure that Microsoft is staying on top of that and meeting the needs of the people at the strategy level.
Oh, that's very fascinating. So are you the person responsible for helping Microsoft Teams to be better?
Funny enough, I am an MVP in M365 apps category, and my two designations are Microsoft Teams and Microsoft Copilot. So I literally work on a regular basis with those teams, and I do have direct connections to the teams. And I've been working with them at Microsoft since Teams was born.
Wow. You know what? The reason why I asked that is because when COVID first happened, I had to quickly pivot. And we were doing, so I was working for a consulting firm, and we had to quickly pivot to virtual stuff and virtual events. So we had this whole thing about like which platform to even use. And it's like people really wanted to consider Teams, but Teams wasn't, as functional as Zoom, for example. But then, like, as time was passing on, Teams was catching up. Teams was like, ooh, Teams is like, we can do this, we can do that. We have your document repository, we have this, we have webinars, we have, so it's like, I use Teams. I use Teams. It's fantastic.
Yeah, so do like some 500 million other people.
Yeah.
Legitimately, right?
Exactly.
Every single day. It's some ridiculous number now. Like, I haven't even looked at it lately. It's grown so fast and it's grown in popularity. And yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, as Teams came out, I was kind of dealing with the same thing. I had a user group, so I ran the Kansas City M365 user group, and I had clients that I had some early adopter clients that were like, we see the value in going to the cloud and we see the value in implementing Teams in our organization. And I had really just completed an entire modernization effort for one of my clients over the holidays. And so when the pandemic hit, what's really interesting is my clients that had been doing that were like, the pandemic hit and there was a lot of people scrambling, but that particular client was like, everybody go home, take your laptops and get on Teams. And they were up and working and productive within like a day or two because they had already transitioned. And the chambers in Kansas City called me and they're like, you're the only person that we know that even knows about this stuff. So can you come do some presentation for the city and for the chambers to show them how to use some of these virtual tools? And at that point, you can remember, like, people were scared to get on FaceTime. People were scared to put their video, like nobody would use Skype video, right? Everybody was scared of that. So this was like brand new, very foreign, a big deal for everybody.
Wow. You know what that just highlighted? Preparation. It's like you're just preparation. So like throughout your life, like, I guess, how did you develop that skill where you just are submerging, you're learning and seeing how you can help people? Like, how did you get to that type of way of being?
It's funny. And I think I was just born with this. There's certain things, I think, personality traits that, some people develop and some people are born with. And I've just always had this innate nature for proactiveness. And I think that's just my personality. I'm a planner by nature. I'm also a little tiny bit of a control freak. If you've ever worked with me or you know me, like, love me or hate me, I try not to be a micromanager, but I definitely am a control freak. And I'm okay with that. And I think as a planner, as a perfectionist, as a type A personality, I just am constantly evaluating risk, and I'm constantly thinking, what is the absolute least and most efficient thing I can do to keep my risk level as low as possible? Because at the end of the day, I want to know that as I move forward in life, whatever I'm going to do is going to have the highest chance of success. And so if I can plan, if I can be proactive, if I can understand, it's that idea of everything's going to change all the time. And you just have to, don't be caught when it does happen. Just know that it will happen. And when you live that way, I feel like every time something comes along, good or bad, whether I like it or not, I'm as prepared for it as I can be.
Yeah. And you literally just highlighted that wonderful opportunity that can come because you're prepared and everybody wasn't.
Yeah, I definitely, and so this is the service, this is the strategy service that I sell, is that when you work with me, once again, love me or hate me, I'm going to tell you, here's the things you need to invest in. Here's the things you need to do to be successful, to be prepared. And I have found that the people that I work with, people, clients, businesses, doesn't matter who it is, when they listen and they're willing to invest and they're willing to strategize and they're willing to be prepared, their risk is so much lower. They're so much more ready. They're so much happier. And we have one of our clients, who we got early on, did a modernization effort for us, actually came back afterwards and had said, you told us to do all this thing and we took you at faith, lock, stock, and barrel, and we did all the things you told us to do. And we just believed that this was the right thing to do. They had gone to a conference in their industry. they came back and they called me and they're like, oh my gosh, we went to this conference and all these other people in our industry were just going on and on about how horrible M365 is and how horrible Teams are and how horrible Power Platform is and how they don't even get it and what a waste of time. And then my client was like, well, we didn't have that experience at all. And in fact, we're doing all these really amazing things, these really cool things. We've been able to get rid of all these additional pieces of software because we've brought it all in-house. We've saved all this money on these different things because we're doing it over here. We've got this great experience. And they told them all the things that they had done with us. And all these other people are like, wow, that's like such a different experience. And I think about that like holistically, that's not just about modern work. That's not just about M365. That's about everything in life. Like what I think when you plan ahead and you're prepared for things and you follow the path for the way that things should be, it doesn't mean that everything's going to go right. It doesn't mean everything's going to be perfect, but you're going to be more prepared and more capable to handle the things that do come along. And your experience is just going to be so much better all the time.
Yeah. Sharon, you literally embody like what consulting should be.
Try.
Like, you're in the field, you're doing research, you're learning, the purpose of a consultant is the mind, right? Your brain. So, and the purpose, your value, you got to be 10 steps ahead of these guys and have the way to get them to where they need to be. And then on top of it, that's even marketing for you. Because now they told, oh, we worked with this consulting firm. I think they know what they're doing. You'll definitely have a better experience. And word of mouth is the best.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's our goal. Our goal is to create partnerships with all of the people that we work with so that, I mean, we truly, we want to be that trusted partner. I know everybody, like a lot of times it's in branding and people say that, but I mean, I really mean that. Like the people that I work with across the board, they're my friends. They're the people I know. They're my relationships. I take this very seriously. I take it to heart. And if you fail, like I fail too. Right. So it just, I try everything I can to treat them the way that I would want somebody to treat me and to make sure that, they're as protected and as low risk as possible. And once again, like I can't make those choices for them. And this is the love me or hate me kind of part is I also have other clients that have been like, I appreciate that you're saying this, but I don't agree with that way of strategizing. I don't agree with being as proactive. I don't agree with following the best practices all the time. I think that there are ways that we can do it a different way. And I'm not going to tell them they're wrong, but I am going to tell them that, they probably need to find a different person to work with because at the end of the day, I don't want to be responsible when they don't take that advice and they fail. And I've had that experience where I've gone in and I've pitched people and I've told them this is the right thing to do. And I do that in all my consultations. Like, I'll tell you what the right answer is. I'm not going to do it for you, but I'll tell you what the right answer is. I've gone in, I've explained this, and then I've had clients call me later, 1, 2, 3 years later and be like, hey, yeah, I remember that thing you told me to do. I didn't do it. And, all the stuff you said would happen if I didn't do it. Yeah, well, that happened. And how would you like to come clean up the mess, right? And so I'd say half my clients are the people who listen to me and say, thank you for letting us know, and we didn't have to ever go through that. And the other half of my clients are, I didn't listen to you and I should have, and can you come help me now? And absolutely. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I'll come and help you. But I think that it just kind of goes back to that, idea of being prepared and planning and limiting your risk.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you even fall into this space? Tell me a little bit about your journey.
Yeah. So, I've always been a nerd. When I was a kid, computers were being invented, right? When I was a kid. And I wrote my first basic program when I was 11. I was in the gifted program, and the gifted kids got to have access to the Apple computers, and we got taught how to program. And because they were like, you are our future. And so I started on an Apple IIe when I was like in 4th grade. And then when I was in 5th and 6th grade, we started learning how to program it. My mom was always a little bit of a nerdy bit too. And so she, got computers when they were really early and really enjoyed that. So I kind of had it around me. I met a boy and he had a computer too. And so we started like playing around together, and we thought that was fun. I eventually married that boy, and I've been with him for a very, very long time. But I thought at that point, and I have an entire presentation that I do about girls in tech, but at that point, I really didn't feel like tech was an option for me. I thought, tech was kind of a boys' game, and it was cute that I liked it, but there really wasn't room for me in that space. And so I started pre-med. And so I have a degree in developmental psychology, and I had every intention of going to medical school, and thought you'd like that. And and I wanted more than anything to be a doctor. And because I love taking care of people, I love diagnosing. I watch surgery shows for fun. And I really I'm fascinated by the body, fascinated by health, and fascinated by people. And so I was like, I'm going to be a doctor. So I started pre-med. They said, hey, you should go, work in the space. So I worked in retail pharmacy for 7 years. And so I have a pharmaceutical background. And during that time, I realized really fast that working in a pharmacy was not going to pay for med school. I'm like looking at the numbers, and I'm like, yeah, this is not going to line up, right? So I took this little digital media program to kind of, they were like, come take this program, make more money while you're in college. And I was like, all right, So I go and I take this program, and I learn how to do things like kiosk design and digital video, like when it was first new. They come in on this first day of the class, and they're like, we're going to add an extra thing to this brand new program. Like, they're going to introduce this new thing. There's this thing called the internet, and we're going to teach you how to make this brand new thing called web pages. And I'm like, okay, like, are you still paying me $10 an hour or what? Like, I'm in. And so I learned how to make web pages. And so my early claim to fame is I created and designed Andy Williams' first website. So Andy Williams, Moon River, I created his first website. I created all the GWiz on the website. I designed it. He called me on the phone, told me how great it was. So there you go. There's my little 5 minutes of fame. But truthfully, like, I think a lot of it is, so that's how early in IT I was making web pages when the internet rolled out.
Yeah. You've been growing with it.
I've been growing with it. And along the way, so long story short, I was like, hey, this is kind of cool. And I kind of exited the medical field and into the tech field with the intention that it would pay for medical school. And then what happened is my career grew. I just kept working my way up. I got into software development jobs. I got into BA jobs when the BA role kind of started existing. And I started doing, project management, and I started doing product management. I started doing portfolio management. I started doing practice management. This weird tool came along called SharePoint, and I'm like, this is kind of fun. And I became kind of a SharePoint expert. And somewhere along the way, I was like, I'm making doctor money without having to do doctor work and doctor insurance and doctor school. And I'm like,
doctor loans.
Maybe I'm just going to stay over here and keep doing this. And it's not that I didn't like it, and it's not that I never didn't want to be a doctor, but really along the way somewhere, I just realized this is who I am now. And I'm okay with that. And I love taking care of my clients, and I love doing what I'm doing. And I worked my way up in corporate. Just about, 10 years ago or so, I had a moment where I was just sitting there, and I just wanted more. I wanted to be able to serve clients in a way that I wasn't doing. I wanted to serve the community in a way that I wasn't doing. I loved my job. I loved the company I worked for. I loved what I was doing, but I just wanted more, and they couldn't give me more, and it was okay. And I exited that, and I went to become an independent consultant. And after a few years, I was selling more work than I could handle on my own, and so I started bringing in contractors. And here we are. The company I have now is 7.5 years old, and we serve clients all over the United States. So there you go.
Oh, Sharon. Oh, man, you definitely held that joke. Because the thing I'm finding now, like when you pair that medical science heavy training processes, environments, you got to pay attention to the pH, like the intricate little details, the electron pairings, like
organic chemistry.
Yeah. I actually loved organic chemistry. I was a weirdo.
Organic chemistry.
Oh my God. You're like the only other person that I know that loves it. and then you apply it to technology, and then you apply the human nature element, you look at the world so completely different.
You do.
And it's so hard to describe. It's so hard to describe how you look at the world unless you've had that rigorous pre-med training, plus your life experience, plus your business experience, plus your tech projects experience, plus human nature, you know? And so when people talk about competition, that's a fake thing. It's fake because not a lot of people have your experience. So not a lot of people can look at the world the way you do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I say this about everybody, like, especially the further you get up, the more unique your perspective actually is. We talk a lot about this in the MVP program too, right? You know, when I coach people for MVP and when I support people around becoming an MVP, the number one question is, yeah, but isn't everybody else saying the same thing? Why should I say the same thing that everybody else is saying? And I'm like, because you see it from a unique perspective in a unique way to help people in a way that nobody else is going to do. Nobody is like you. Nobody has your experience. Nobody has your background. Nobody has your voice. And every voice is going to be slightly different. And so we're going to paint the same picture, but they're all going to look different. And different people are going to connect with different pictures depending on what their backgrounds are. And so there's this idea, I think, that, you know, well, I don't want to do it because somebody else is doing it. I don't want to say it because somebody else is saying it. I don't want to write it because somebody else is writing it. And what's the point? And the point is because we need your voice. It's different.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Yeah. And it's so funny because like I've been paying more attention to nature and trees. There's so many different types of trees in the world, and all of them are really, really unique. You know, even the same type of trees, they all grow slightly different. They all have a different like drink, you know? There's so much uniqueness in the world. And I think that's also why like I love other people sharing their stories and having a voice, because it's like your story matters too. Your journey matters too, because there's someone somewhere that will hear this story and say, wow, I relate to Sharon. Wow, I really can believe in myself. Wow, I really do have something unique to say. Wow, let me just try and see what happens. And then they try, and then there you go, you know?
Yeah, I used to be kind of more heads down. Like, so I was the person who, you know, sat behind the scenes in the cube, had my head down. I loved what I did, but I would say, I don't know, about 10 years ago, I mean, and I had started speaking and training, and I was okay with that. Like, I'd go do my thing and I'd go home. And I started having women reach out to me and message me. They were like, oh my gosh, I'm so inspired by you. I'm so like you've made it so that I feel like I can get into tech. Your story makes me realize that I can do it too. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, why are you even telling me this?
Yeah, yeah,
Of
it's
course
yeah,
you
yeah,
can. Why would you even
yeah,
think that you couldn't, you know?
yeah, yeah.
And all of this, and so I really, like, I thought about this for a while, and people started being like, no, we really need you to show up. We really need you to speak. We really need you to present. And I'm like, I don't think you understand. Like, I'm a director, right? I'm a background person. I'm an architect. I don't stand in front of people. I don't get on shows. I don't, like, I'm happy to teach you how to use something, but like, I'm not the person that's standing up here explaining all this stuff. Like, that's not me. And it's so many people over and over and over. We need to hear you. We need to hear you. We need to hear you.
Wow.
So many young women that came to me and said, I need you to do this because there's no other women in tech that are speaking out right now. There's no other women in tech who are telling me that it's okay to get into tech. There's no other women in tech that are telling me that I can move my way up, that I can get into an executive role. And I heard this over and over and over and over.
Wow.
And so finally I really sat down and I said, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it because I enjoy talking is part of it, and it's easy, but also because people need to hear it. And because all of these women were saying, please, 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 please keep talking. And so then I really kind of started going a little bit on a rampage, and everything that I submit to people was, you know, panels about women empowerment and getting into tech and opening the doors and pulling the seat up at the table. And I never really had thought of myself like as a feminist in the past. I always just like, I'm just a hard worker, and I work in a very male dominated industry, but like anybody can do it if they put their head down and just got it done. And I didn't realize how much women needed somebody to tell them that it was okay and open the door for them. And so, yeah, so I mean, a lot of the reason that I do it is really just so that other people out there will hear that and will say, thank you so much for saying that out loud, because you said that I felt like I could apply for this job, apply for this promotion, do something I didn't think I could do, work on a team of all guys, and be okay with it. Things like that maybe they wouldn't have done otherwise.
That's very fascinating. Wow. Because I think about some of that stuff, and I think about, you hear just random people's experiences. And so people have a common perception of things. But if you have a different experience and your experience was actually successful, talking about it lets people know that it is possible. Because the experience I have working in tech, I don't share a lot of the same experiences women talk about. I don't have issues with the men, because my role is to make everyone's lives easier. And I do it to everybody, whether you're a man or a female. That's just my leadership style. I gotta make your life easier. You're delivering this project for me. What can I do? Right. And so just that simple approach, I get respect, even from people who were labeled as difficult. Because you're a human. All right, let me make your job easier. You have to do this for 8 hours. I have to talk to you for 8 hours every single day. Why would I make your life harder? For what? So yeah, so thank you for sharing that, because I think I probably should talk about my experiences a little bit more in tech. I don't.
You should.
Yeah.
We need it desperately. We desperately need it.
Yeah. I didn't even think that was a need. I didn't realize it was a need. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And so so 10 years ago, you had your pivot and you've impacted a lot of women. I guess one of the things that I find fulfilling is when you see someone's growth. So you have the luxury of a couple years passing over some of those first initial women who reached out. Where are they now?
Oh my gosh. So I have a trail of people that I have worked with over the years, and it's everything from simply connecting, on LinkedIn or on Facebook, all the way to directly coaching people. And I have so many fabulous stories of people who have said, I'd love to do this, but I'm afraid. And one of the girls that I met 100% random chance, I ended up working with her for a little while, and she transitioned from being a school teacher to now she is an MVP and she presents at some of the global conferences around the world. And she just said, hey, I know that I want to do something different. I know I want to do something more. How can I get there? Right. And we work together. And through that, she is just amazing and going so far. And I'm so incredibly proud of, where she's gone and what she's doing now. And she's just a pivotal part of the community now. And, and I have so many stories like that. And unfortunately, everybody isn't successful, right? Everybody doesn't get where they want to go and they don't do what they want to do. And it's heartbreaking for me. It's absolutely, I will literally do everything I can to get people to get from where they are now to where they want to be, but I can't make that journey for them, right? Yeah. And so there are people who don't get there, but I can tell you honestly, there are so many people that I've had everything from very simple interactions with to very direct interactions with, that whenever I see them post, hey, I made it, or I did this, or, promote out, achievements that they've done. I do literally everything I can to support, to share, to retweet. And I'm always mentoring and coaching several people. I usually do a couple in the community, and I do paid coaching as well. But I always have a handful of people that I'm mentoring and coaching that are coming up the ranks, right? And a lot of times, as soon as that cohort kind of gets through, there's another one coming behind them. And so now I have, 30 years of people around the world that I've coached into different roles and different positions, and continue to mentor. And I love doing it. I run a women's retreat a couple of times a year, where people come in and we spend a weekend together and we really get to know each other. And, we talk about how we can get from here to there. That's really what the whole weekend is about, is, finding that place of strength so that we can all grow together. But the other thing that comes out of that is we have this cohort, right? We have this ongoing cohort forever and ever and ever, that you really had this moment with those people, and those people then become part of your support system forever.
Yeah.
And I've watched that year over year over year happen as well. And people really develop strong bonds through that. So one of my goals, kind of going forward, is not just to inspire people, but to create more and more opportunities where people can come into their power, where people can learn how to support other people. And Seth Godin has a book called Tribes, and it says, we need you to step up and be the leader, because we need leaders in our tribes. And I take that really, really seriously. And so one of my goals is to lead my tribe and to create more tribes, not just to be the leader, but to also to create tribes that are going to go out and create more tribes. So.
But you know what, Sharon? You helped me with that.
Oh,
definitely
good.
helped me with that. Yeah, when we connected in January. Yeah, you like the advice that you shared with me, just about like what it really means to try to scale and grow, because I was kind of hesitant a bit, right? And then just like that simple conversation, like just like, okay, I don't need to approach it like how I was thinking before. I have options to approach scaling. So, and because of that, now I'm like, starting to mobilize people, so it really make the growth that I was looking to do actually happen. So yeah, you're doing it. You're doing it more than you even realize it.
Oh, I just love it. See, this is just it. I love it whenever I hear that, like the fact that I've inspired you to do something that's going to help you come into your power. And that just makes me feel so good.
Yeah. And have you always had like a big heart and, always giving? Have you been screwed over by that? What are some of your like, what's a horror, not a horror, a war story? Not a horror. War. What's a war story with when you, because sometimes like you give, and then sometimes you give the wrong person and it gets weird.
Yeah. I mean, I think that everybody has some level of things not working out the way that they expect. And I can tell you story after story over the years of as many inspirational stories as I can about people who weren't as inspirational. And it can be anything from, people who move out of your circles. And so I've had friends that have come to work with me, that have said, hey, I'm your friend. I want to come do things with you. I want you to support me. I want you to, bring me into your circle. And usually whenever I do that, I try to be as upfront as possible, and I try to be as transparent as possible. And I'm like, look, I'll do this, but you're the one that's responsible for your success, right? I can't be responsible for your success. And I have had people that have stepped into that and have really embraced it and have become very successful. And I've had other people who have stepped into that and they haven't. And at the end of it, they blame me, right? And so that happens. They don't achieve whatever it is that they thought that they wanted. They ended up leaving my circle, whether, they left by choice or not. And ultimately, some of those people have decided to disconnect and leave me behind. And the way that I have to look at that is energetically, I'm attracting the people to me that should be in my life, whether they need me or I need them, or, it's a win-win. And if they've decided to leave, it's because they just are not on the same vibration I am. And it hurts, and I'm sad, and I absolutely don't ever intend to hurt anybody on purpose. Like, I am not malicious by nature at all. I mean the best for everybody. I'm altruistic. And I really believe in people's potential and opportunity. Like, I believe everybody has so much more potential than they probably think they do. In fact, I think one of the things that I struggle with is I believe so much in people that when they don't achieve the level of potential that I really see in them, I push them hard. And if they don't get there, like, they're more frustrated than I am sometimes, because they want that potential and they can't get there. And maybe they're not willing to do the work, or maybe they are not ready for it, or maybe it's not the right fit for them yet. But I do have definitely plenty of war stories of where people have come and said they're ready to make that journey, and they don't make it to the top for whatever reason. And
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I asked that question just because it's, it was a similar, similar stuff, similar thing I can relate to. When you believe in other people so much, you have some that really take off, and then you have some where, there's something blocking the takeoff, and there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, I always feel selfish when I say I have to protect myself first and I have to prioritize myself. But it's true. You have to. You have to prioritize yourself, and you have to take care of yourself before other people. Like you got to put the mask on yourself first, right? If you want to live, you have to put the mask on yourself first. And so that's, I try really hard as long as my cup is full, I'm happy to give whatever's left away. Right?
Yeah.
But when my cup isn't full, sometimes I have to stop giving so that I can go back to filling my own cup up. And I think sometimes that's where the heartache happens, where people are like, but wait, like you were an endless source of energy for me. You were an endless source of things for me. And now you stopped. And I'm like, yeah, right. So you're going to like have to get some of your own for a little while I refill my cup, because like I get to take care of me for a little bit. And I think that's hard for people sometimes.
It is. It is. And I've been paying attention to that as of late, right? Like, are you doing this because of your own energy, or are you doing this because you've interacted with me?
Well, and even more so, what are you giving to me, right? Like if your cup is full, where is that energy going? And I really, in my life, what I want is I want people who are capable of filling their own cups and are willing to share what's left.
Yes.
And when they can't, I just need them to say that they can't.
Yes.
So that I can respect that.
Yes, exactly.
And that's totally fine.
Yeah. It's like the most clearest, direct, simple communication. But a lot of people don't like that stuff sometimes too. That's what I'm learning as well.
It's hard. It's scary. Yeah. Nobody wants to say, my cup is empty and I can't give to you anymore. They don't want to. Right?
But it's so important. Literally, it's in all the religious texts. I was going to say the Bible, but all of them say that, like, don't worry about other people, worry about yourself first.
Mm-hmm. And that's not the same as being greedy and taking from other people. Mm-mm. We're not talking about, don't share. We're just saying, and what I'm saying is fill your cup and then whatever's left, give it away. Exactly.
Yeah. You got to make sure you're good. You got to make sure you're able to see, right? You don't want no log. Exactly. You don't want a log in your eye. You got to make sure you can see, and then you can help remove the speck.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So Sharon, if you had your top 3 pieces of advice for your younger self, what would it be?
I hear this one a lot. And I remember when I was younger, I used to hear this and I'd be like, But like you get to a certain point where you realize that it really doesn't matter what other people think. And I think, I would definitely give that advice to myself. Is I spent way too long being like so incredibly worried about what people thought of me every single second of every single day. And I would definitely say, that's not to say don't care at all, but don't be consumed by it. And, haters going to hate, let them hate. Don't worry about it. Do what you're going to do anyways. And I think you and I talked about this earlier, but before the show we were chatting about this. And I think another piece of advice would be to believe in myself more. I spent a lot of time second guessing my own thoughts, my own opinions, my own beliefs, my own strategies, and constantly thinking that somebody else knew more than I did. And that what I know is not enough on its own. And that clearly whatever I'm doing isn't right or isn't enough. And so I spent a lot of my time always validating from the people around me. And I would probably tell myself, trust your gut, but be prepared for the consequences, right? If for whatever reason your gut tells you wrong, like just be ready, be prepared so that if anything does go wrong, you can handle it. And I think my third piece of advice would probably be something along the lines of people are going to hurt you, but be kind anyways.
Yeah.
Because if you think about people hurting you and use that as an excuse to stop caring and loving people, that you miss that part of it too. So no matter what, you know, don't let the haters stop you from continuing to love on people.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a hard one, but it's really true. It's a hard one, but it's true. You got to keep your perspective neutral so that you can still see everything clearly. Don't harbor resentment. Yeah, that's really great.
I went through a period of time where I kind of really stopped and held everything in because I got hurt so badly that I was just like, I just can't, give to people. And I think had I continued to love on people during that time, that love would have come back to me. But I went through a really dark season for a while because I withheld because I had been hurt. And when I started loving again and when I started giving again, it's like the faster you can get back to that, the faster you heal and the better things get, no matter how bad it is. And so, a lot of that is just, it's resiliency, right? It's getting back on the horse, but it's if loving people is your thing, don't let that pain stop you.
Yeah. 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 Oh, I love that so much, Sharon. I think those are really that universal life pieces of advice. I think so. You can carry that throughout, even in the future too. That's great. And where can people find you, Sharon?
Oh, dude, I'm everywhere. I'm Sharon E. Weaver on pretty much everything. I've got the E in there because when I very first started, like the Sharon Weaver was taken on a couple things. So, and I think Sharon Weaver's like a really famous painter. Is a really famous painter, and so she's out there. But so Sharon E. Weaver on pretty much everything. My business is Smarter Consulting. You can find us at smarter-consulting.com. I do host That Glam Life, which is a podcast, brand new podcast that's starting to roll out episodes. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on all socials. It's pretty hard not to find me, so feel free to connect with me pretty much anywhere. And for the most part, I will do my best to connect or follow you back.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. It's been such a pleasure having you on the show. We have so much in common. That's why I love these podcasts. Like, they're so wonderful. And more to come. Thank you so much, Sharon.
Thank you so much for having me. Had a great time.